The next speaker, we have a good friend of mine, Mr. Ku Seng Meng. Seng Meng has got a long history with industry work. In fact, before joining AI Singapore, he's done many set of activities and has been a very active player and contributor to society. Today, he leads up the AI talents in the AI innovation pillar with AI Singapore, and he's here today to talk to us about the AI Readiness Index. Mr. Lawrence Liu alluded to that in the second presentation. Now we'll dive deep into the details on what that means and how an organization can look at how ready they are to adopt AI solutions. So, Seng Meng, over to you.
Thank you, Oliver. Hello, everyone. Let me just share my slides. Right. So this topic, we are talking about accreditation, readiness, and earlier in the talk with Director Lawrence from AI Singapore, you talk about how we do projects with 100E, with the unique twinning program between 100E and apprentice. And even earlier, then Mr. Ku Peng Siong also talked about the realities of embarking on AI projects. All that. Now, questions on many people's mind would always be this: look, I heard about AI, I know about AI, there's always media talking about it, all that. Am I ready for AI? Is my organization ready, all that? So what I want to do is to deep dive. For those who have caught earlier, Lawrence talked about 100 experiment and talking about the index. This is a deeper into the mechanics of actually how we do it. And towards the end of it, I'll offer you a link which you can actually take the AI Readiness Index test, which is a 15 minutes questionnaire. Right. So let's begin with, let's recap quickly about the challenges of adopting AI. So today, over the past 4 years of AI Singapore running the industry programs, we sort of distill down that companies have some misunderstanding when it comes to successful AI adoption. Right? Many companies will then say, oh, AI is actually about the algorithm. You know, if I have a very good algorithm, I will be able to solve the things I want to solve. The reality is you not just be having an algorithm, but you also actually need to have talent. You need to have ask the right questions to build the right use cases. And importantly, if you look at AI or machine learning, think of it as an engine. And an engine needs fuel. And what kind of fuel is that for an AI algorithm? That's data. You not only need data, you need quality data. So you need quality data, you need talent, and you need good use cases. And last but not least, after you finish the algorithm, you actually need to deploy it to extract the business value of AI. So it's not just about algorithm. Second is adoption can be just simply made by I go and get a vendor to create something which I think will work, and I'll just pass it to the employee and everything will be fine. It's not true. There's actually a lot of factors when it comes to successful adoption of AI, or for that matter, any kind of technologies. So you also require employees to be bought in. You also require employees to actually understand and to be at least AI literate, to know how this AI will help them. Lawrence spoke about AI for everyone, and in the early days, many people were hesitant to think that AI will take over their job rather than AI being a augmentation tool for them. So third is now not so much now. Things are getting better. In the early days, people always just think that AI is something very complicated, only big companies can do. The matter of the fact is, actually, small companies who are nimble with very defined use cases, with less complexity in the hierarchy, or that AI actually is seen as a very nice low-hanging fruit for them to help in some of the various processes. So common questions that people has been asking AI Singapore when it comes to trying to look at some of the programs which can help them. How do I know whether my organization is ready, right? What are the factors I should consider before I even start embarking? And that's very important, which has been covered earlier. And then we always speak to them about data and how can I ensure I have the right data? What are the things that we need to do in future to be more AI ready? And does my employee really need to know AI before using it? Because many thought that AI is this very complicated thing, but sometimes it's not just about training AI engineers. We should also be training intelligent AI consumers. So these are just some of the questions that we always see. And what AI Singapore has does is, as a national program, while our programs are designed to help individual companies, at the end of it is much better that more and more organization is able to do it themselves. They see us as a catalyst. So we want to be able to catalyze all of our experience and put it out there. So company has a ready guide and a ready learning pathway to assess whether they are ready for AI, to adopt AI or not. And hence, that is the background when it comes to the AI Readiness Index. Now, AI Readiness Index is described as an actionable framework for AI adoption. And when we deep dive into it, the history is based on the background of us engaging more than 500 companies since we started the 100E audit. And majority of our AI engineering team are practitioners, and we also digest a lot of existing AI readiness index and maturity models that is available globally. And for every engagement with companies, we also learn what the companies is facing, all that. And from there onwards, we actually are able to distill down into 4 key factors, key success factor when it comes to AI adoption. 1 is organization readiness. 2 is business value readiness. 3 is data readiness. And last but not least, the infrastructure readiness. Right. Now, these 4 pillars, if you break it down into the next level, organization readiness would be sometimes is in many ways, especially in smaller companies, is a top-down thing. Organization readiness is not just about boss saying, let's adopt AI, but you need to have some form of buy-in, as we said earlier, with the organization. Business value is also very important. Business value is always about what exactly do you want the AI to do? And if you look at 100E, we talk about the developing a minimum viable model over 7 months. Essentially, that is proving to the organization the business value of AI specific to that business problem. So business value readiness. Are you ready to understand how AI can help you? Data readiness, as I explained earlier, machine learning algorithm, if you look at it as a car engine, they need fuel. So quality data and sufficient data, those are very important. And last but not least, today, as you digest about news of AI, is not about just building the algorithm already. It's about how do you actually put it into production? How do you actually deploy it? And during the deployment itself, how do you actually use it and ingest your ongoing organization data and then improve the business outcome? Now, these 4 pillars are independent, but these 4 pillars are also reinforcing each other. And holistically, when you look at this, actually it represents a very, very nice temperature check for an organization. Are you ready, or is there things that needs to be done to adopt AI, right? So out of these 4 pillars, there are some assessment that is actually done. So when we look at the assessment, let's start with the organization readiness. We start looking into 4 aspects of organization readiness. The first is the literacy, whether employee becomes AI literate. Lawrence spoke about earlier, talking about how Civil Service College now adopting it for the public servant. Now, this AI for Everyone course is actually free, so feel free to check it out. And within an hour of theory audit, we actually help the learners to understand common terminologies and the common history of AI and learn how to identify potential AI use case. Now, having a basic grounding of common AI terminologies is also very good, because the more you set a national baseline of common AI languages and terminologies, buyers and sellers are all talking in the same language, and everybody actually understands very well, and that actually helps to elevate the national baseline when it comes to ecosystem awareness of AI. Now, then from literacy, you move into talent, whether the organization has the capability to do that in-house or outsource. AI governance. Now, AI governance is up and coming topic. And there are several resources, for example, like IMDA, PDPC, that will actually looks at that. And management support, many ways, management support top down, that is very important. Next is business value readiness. Business value readiness can be best described is, do you actually have a use case? And it's not just any use case. As we described in the earlier talk about 100 experiment, the criteria that Lawrence spoke about. Do you have an in-house development team? Are you clear about the business outcome? Are you guys going to deploy it? What's the business value? Can you actually describe it down to dollar and cents or productivity gain, all that? These are business value readiness that should actually be equipped before you embark on adopting AI. Data readiness, I spoke of it, data quality, reference data, infrastructure readiness. For some of you who already are running some AI algorithms, all that, this is one of the key things when it comes to scaling. So machine learning operations and deployable AI solution, production-ready solution, these are actually terms and scenarios that is becoming more and more important as industries want to extract the business value of AI on an ongoing basis. How then do you apply, right? So we actually productize it into a 15 minutes questionnaire. I sort of jumped ahead earlier, I should come back here. So having taken all this, what we did is we crystallize it into a 15 minutes questionnaire where we will go through with you as you answer certain questions. We encourage people who is taking the AI Readiness Index, right, to be somebody who is at least mid or senior in the organization, that you have an overview of not just your area of work, but also of what other areas that your colleagues or your department is looking on, so that when you actually go through it, then you actually get a scoring. And from the scoring itself, we distill down to 4 different indexes: AI unaware, AI aware, AI ready, and AI competent. I would like to stress at this point again is it's not it's actually not a competency system, as in it doesn't mean that because you're AI unaware you are worse off than AI competent. Everybody, based on their business model and the nature of their business, actually should be comfortable in the various bucket. Lawrence spoke about Yakun. Yakun can be just AI aware. It doesn't need to be AI competent. It doesn't make sense for them to be able to have in-house AI capability, at least not yet. I mean, they can try out. One of the favorite ways where I like to describe AI unaware, AI aware, AI ready, AI competence is the classic case of, if you are a business owner, should I build or should I buy an AI solution? If your core business is not on developing and consuming complex algorithm, you are happy to be just AI unaware and AI aware, then it makes more sense for you to buy. And let's say you are on the other spectrum where you are technology solution player, your business will actually benefit from having technology solution in-house, and then you might want to invest on building. So AI unaware and AI aware is at the buy equation, AI ready and AI competent will be the build equation. Right? Now, the next few slides, I will talk about what kind of report actually you get when you finish the AI Readiness Index assessment. So after you finish the questionnaire, an individualized report is actually sent to you, right? And if you look at it, there are several examples which I'll go through here. Take, for example, AI unaware. Under the AI unaware, you have current state where it's scored between 0 to 3. And this is a spider chart for you to be able to visualize where you are. And you can also think about going into your desired state. So we have anonymized this. It was actually a company that was looking into elder care. So they actually took the assessment and they realized that, okay, they need more management support. They need to be able to be stronger in identifying the use case, so on and so forth. In AI aware, typically you will see a profile in blue where management support is strong, and the organization is also very clear what kind of AI use case that they want to do, all that. Okay, they may or may not be strong already in the data readiness side, but there are certain areas they would like to improve. Take, for example, they would like to have they would like to groom AI literacy within their staff, and they may want to start thinking about having a few of their staff one or two to start developing maybe a little bit of vertical skills when it comes to machine learning or data science. Third is when you look at AI ready, AI ready organization typically will score very high when it comes to having management support, having the talent, having the data infrastructure. So they can do some work when it comes to identifying the use cases. So they are ready. If the data is not at a good level, then they can seek to improve the data quality itself. So by looking at the various profile, it also represents the current temperature check you have, the blue one, and where you think you should go. So AI Readiness Index serves as sort of a blueprint for you to understand whether it's a build or buy equation for you, what makes sense, and should you want to move on to the next level, what should you be focusing on? And when we look at this, it was done at individual level, and AI Singapore as a national body, all that is also actually very interested to look at how the sectorial play. And that is something actually we are also very interested to work with Oliver and the APARA team as they encourage more of the ecosystem to take the AI Readiness Index, so that the more data they have, they are able to build a plot on how the sector is moving. And it's very important for that because from there onwards, we can actually design intervention programs, right? You know where you are, or as an association or a sector champion, you know where your sector is currently at. Then we can actually design new programs or improve our existing program so that we can start putting in targeted, selected help to plug in the gaps. So what you see here on the screen is, of course, what we have layered for AI Singapore industry programs to be in. If you're an association, and I'm looking forward to work with APARA, they will then replace all the blue bars with APARA own programs, association as well. Right. With that, I end my deep dive when it comes to AI Readiness Index. Now, this assessment, this QR code will be made available. So have a run at it and have a good try. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Seng Ming. In fact, I would encourage the audience, when you get a chance, do visit the AI Singapore booth, the virtual booth, and there'll be a lot more information available that you can see and potentially download as well. Seng Ming, as you were talking, I did a little poll with the audience. I asked them if they are ready for an AI adoption. Very interestingly, nobody said no, which is good, right? But we do have a proportion that says not sure. We hope that we can convert this not sure into yes, we are ready. Yeah, we do have a good percentage that says they believe they are ready, and that's really a good sign. I think being advocates of AI and the ability to leverage on technology to augment human capability and potential to help the general public understand AI and eventually move from a stage of not sure to the stage whereby we think we want to do it, but am I ready? What can I do to move forward? That would be the goal we want to have. Okay. So thank you very much again, Seng Ming, for the very rich presentation. I guess for the audience, the question then is, well, we've got all this national program, we've got our experts talking about what we can do and cannot do. Let's hear a use case. Let's hear somebody who has gone through this journey and successfully deployed their AI solution. So join us in our next session, where we're going to have the Chief Operating Officer of UPaso join us and share with us their journey through AI Singapore and their adoption of AI solution. So thank you everyone again, and I'll see you in the next session.